Hello viewers, my name is Umesh Verma and today I am here with you with a beautiful topic. It belongs to ICSE English for classes 9th and 10th, especially class 10th. The title is The Little Match Girl. This is a very beautiful, simple short story, but it has a great significance. First of all, I talk about the author and the theme of this story. So The Little Match Girl by Hans Christian Andersen is a fairy tale with a tragic end. Why tragic end? Because at the end there's a tragedy because Little Match Girl dies at the end of the chapter. It was published in 1845. Andersen got inspiration for this story from a drawing by a Danish artist. That artist's name was Johann Thomas. Okay, John Thomas, where actually in that place where a little girl was selling matches, okay, in the street. So to seeing that little girl selling matches, Andersen got inspiration to write this chapter. Actually, the whole story revolves around about the little girl who was selling matches, okay, in a heavy cold outside. It is a winter season, snow was falling, okay, and the little match girl was selling matches on the day of New Year Eve. This is the theme, this is the basic point of the story. So we can count the basic points of the story. First of all, in the beginning, a poor little girl was sent by her father to sell matches on the cold New Year Eve. This is the first point. This is the first section of the chapter. Secondly, little girl was unable to sell any matches. She sat near a wall with a hopelessness. Throughout the day, the day passed. The little match girl hasn't earned even a single cent. Okay, actually she had no buyer. Now third point, she lit a match to keep herself warm. In its light, she felt as if she was sitting before a hot iron stove. This is the first vision seen by the little girl. Now fourth point, as she lit the second match, she saw the vision of the roasted goose, and she imagined that roasted goose hopped down and coming to the little girl because she was too much hungry and wanted to eat roasted goose. Next point, she lit a third match and had a vision of the huge Christmas tree. And she compared that Christmas tree with that Christmas tree which she had seen last year. Next point, when she lit the fourth match, she saw the vision of her dead grandmother. And that was a so valuable and so significant vision for her because she loved her grandmother too much, more than anyone or anything. Next point, she embraced her grandmother and told her to carry her off to heaven because she does not want to live in this world. Okay, because why? Because she had experienced very bitter experience about this world, because she had no money, she had no food, she has no clothes, she had no happiness in the life, she had no peace in the life. That is why she want to go to the heaven with her grandmother. Now last point, in the next morning when the little match girl dies, or we can say when the little match girl has gone to the heaven with her grandmother, that means she dies. In the next morning, her frozen dead body was found, okay, with burnt out matches by the people. Then people saw that the little match girl was trying to warm herself by burning the matches. This is the last scene of the chapter. Now I talk about the text of the chapter, original text. So I will explain the line. Okay, I have this textbook, so I am explaining the line one by one, and then I will explain my own words. Okay, so you listen carefully, be attentive for that. Yes, It was so terribly cold, snow was falling and it was almost dark. That means there's completely dark, or we can say it is a time of evening. Okay, and snow was falling. Snow falling was there. That means it is a bitter cold. Evening came on, the last evening of the year. Why this is last evening of the year? That means this is a 31st December. The people are celebrating New Year. This is a New Year Eve. In the cold and gloom, a poor little girl, bareheaded. Bareheaded means no cap on her head. Okay, bareheaded. And barefoot. Barefoot means no slipper in her foot. Okay, so she is barefoot. Was walking through the street. She was walking through the street because why? Because she has to sell all the matches throughout the day. It is the order given by her father. Her father actually sent her to sell the matches. So through the street, of course, when she had left her house, she had slippers on. But what good had they been? Actually, she wore the slippers when she departed from her house. But were they good? That means what? There's a question. So actually, the slippers are not belong to her. Okay. So what happened? Yes. She had slippers on, but what good they had been? They were very big slippers, way too big for her, for they belong to her mother. Actually, the slippers belong to her mother. That means the size of the slippers is too big for her to wear. Okay, it is too big. Yes. The little girl had lost them running across the road while two carriages had rattled by terribly fast. That means two carriages were coming from the either side and the little girl was crossing the road. So in crossing the road, she left or she lost her slippers. Okay. Then what happened? So one slipper she lost here and the one slipper who was taken, listen to me, she had not been able to find again. And a boy had run off with the other saying, could use it very well as a cradle some day when he had children of his own. It is a big irony of this chapter, because how can a slipper be a cradle? A slipper cannot be a cradle. Okay, so this is the irony of the chapter. So we can say that, and what he is saying that he will use that slipper when he will have his own children. So it's a fun, it's not impossible. Okay, it's not possible thing, whatever the boy is saying. So in this way, both the slipper, the little match girl lost. Now again, she is bare feet. Okay, so you see, she is barefooted. Then what happened? One slipper she had been able to find. Okay, again, the boy has taken, saying could use it very well some day when he had a children. Okay, and so the little girl walked on naked feet. Now again, the little girl has naked feet. Now you can believe this is a bitter cold outside. Okay, how can a girl, how can a little, actually the little word, there's no age of the, there's no exact age mentioned in the chapter, but we must guess, we can guess that that little girl would be near about 7 to 10 years old. Okay, there's no name of the girl, so we can say a nameless girl walking in the street selling the matches. There's no name in the chapter mentioned for the little girl. Okay, so the title is Little Match Girl only. Clear? So now you see, naked feet, which were quite red and blue with the cold. In old apron, she carried many packages of matches. What she had? She had a big pocket in her cloth, in her apron, and what? Full of the match boxes, which she has to sell. Yes. In an old apron, she carried several packages of the matches and she held a box of them in her hand. That means in her hand, one of the matchbox also she had in her hand. Okay, why? To sell. She is ready. If she would buy, if she would get any buyer, then she can buy and would earn some money. But throughout the day, she had no buyer, okay, to buy her matches. Now what happened next? She had a box. Okay, no one had bought any from her all the day long and no one had given her cent. That means even a single cent she has not earned throughout the day. Shivering with the cold and hunger. She is feeling too much cold, but there's no hope, there's no help for her. She is hungry also. She crept along the picture of the misery, poor little girl. Again, the author called her a poor little girl because there's no shelter. How can she protect herself from the cold outside? The snowflakes fell on her long fair hair, which hung in pretty curls over her neck. In all the windows, lights were shining, and there was a wonderful smell of the roast goose. Okay, roast goose actually. Why? She's a smelling. She's too much hungry, so she is feeling the smells are coming. The smells are coming from through the window of the houses. Okay, what the smell? Roast goose smell. Okay, because it is a Christmas Eve. Wonderful smell. Okay, it was New Year's Eve. Yes, she thought of that. She thought of that. This is a New Year Eve, and she had nothing to eat. She is hungry. So a contrast, but the poet has given a beautiful contrast in the chapter. The poor girl who is hungry, and people are enjoying favorite dishes, enjoying happiness, enjoying party, drinks, eating, okay, dancing, singing. They are enjoying. The world is enjoying Christmas. Sorry, New Year Eve, and the contrast of this, that the poor little girl has nothing to eat. Now next, in a corner formed by the two houses, one of which projected farther out in the street than the other. She sat down there actually. There's a shade area between the two houses in the corner. So in the corner, she sat down. Actually, she became tired. Throughout the day, she had no buyer, so she hasn't sold the any matches. She hasn't earned the money. She has no food. Okay, she has nothing to protect herself from the cold. So in hopelessness, she sat. Being tired, she sat down in a corner between the two houses. Then what happened next? Look, sat down and drew up her little feet under her. Actually, she shrunk her body, okay, because she is feeling too much cold. Then she was getting colder and colder, but did not dare to go home. But did not dare to go home because why? Did not dare to go home because she had sold no matches for earned a single cent, and her father would surely beat her. Her father surely beat her, that means the father must be very cruel person. Okay, he is a kindless man. That is why her father surely beat her. In this way, she is not going back to home. Now, next reason. Beside, it was cold at home, for they had nothing over them but a roof through which the wind whistled, even though the biggest crack had been stuffed with the straw and rags. That means what? Actually, her house condition is also very bad. In the roof of the house, there's a big cracks, and the wind passed through that big holes of the roof. So nobody can get any protection in such a damaged house. Okay, who with the house which has fully damaging condition. So that is why she is also not going back to home. There's no advantage of this. If you go back to home, in the house there's also too much cold, so nothing advantage, no advantage is there. So two reasons are there. The first reason, she is not going back to home because her father would surely beat her for not selling the matches. Second thing, her house condition is very bad. Okay, no one can protect herself or himself from the cold in such a house. So that is why she is not going back to home. Her hands were almost dead with the cold. Dead with the cold means what? Actually, her hands become numb. Oh, how much one little match might warm her. Now the big question is that how can she warm herself? Okay, how can she protect herself? Otherwise, she is going to die. If she could only take one from the box and rub it against the wall and warm her hands. The one option, the one hope to keep away the cold for her what? Her matches. If she scratch one match against the wall, then it will start burning, and due to the little flame, little fire through the matches, she can warm herself. So she did what she did against the wall and warmed her hands. She drew out one scratch. How it sputtered. Sputtered is the sound of burning matches. Okay. How is it sputtered and burned? It made a warm, bright flame like a little candle, and she held her hands over it. So by scratching the matches, as soon as the match burned, it is she started putting her hands over the flame, little flame of the fire, and then she gets some warmth. Now next, it gave a strange light. As soon as the fire burned, then what happened? In the light of the matches, she saw her first vision. She imagined something in the light of the match. What she imagined? As if she was sitting before a great iron stove with a shining brass knobs and a brass cover. That means that small little flame of the fire through the matches look like look like what? Look like a big iron stove burning beside her, and she was sitting beside a iron stove. She imagined, she thought about it. Okay. After that, what happened? How wonderfully the fire burned, and she liked too much that fire, because that little fire is the only hope in this bitter cold outside. How comfortable it was! The youngster stretched out her feet to warm them too. Then the little flame went out. But very soon the little flame went out. Okay. And again the same condition. The stove vanished. As soon as the fire went out, then what happened? The vision of the iron stove disappeared, vanished. And she had only remains for the burnt match in her hand. Now what she did again? She struck another match. She struck another match against the wall. It burned brightly. Okay, and when the little fell upon the wall, when the light fell upon the wall, it became transparent like a thin wheel. Actually, when the light of the matches fell upon the opposite wall, the walls of the brick, then the walls became transparent, and she started to seeing her second vision. She imagined something else. What the second vision? Second vision is that she was seeing the second vision. Yes. And when the light fell upon the wall, it became the transparent like a thin wheel. She could see through it into the room. In that reflection of that wall, she found the room, the scene of a room, okay, opposite to that is the opposite of the house. So the reflection is coming on the wall because of that light. Okay. So what is the description of that room? What is the features of that room? The little girl is that author has explained what little girl has seen in the second vision. So what was there? It became transparent. Then she could see through it into the room. On the table, a snow white cloth was spread. That means there was a dining table in the room. Beautiful white cloth was spread on the table, and dinner was served. And what are the things in the dinner? The roast goose steamed gloriously, stuffed with apples and prunes. And what was still better, the goose jumped down from the dish. As she imagined, because she was too much hungry, that is why she feels that the roasted goose jumped down from the dish and coming to the girl. Why? She feels that if that roasted goose come to me, then she can eat, and she can what? She can fulfill his hunger. Okay. So she imagined that roasted goose coming down, okay, to the little girl, because she is too much hungry. She imagined. Now next. And what was still better? That the goose jumped down, okay. Waddle along with a knife and the fork, its breast. Means in the same manner, the roasted goose having the fork and the knife on his breast. Okay, in the same condition the goose is coming to the little girl. She saw this kind of vision. Cold wall. She lighted, then what happened? Then the match went out and she could see only the thick cold wall. As soon as she saw seeing the goose are coming towards her, then what happened? The that match went off, and again she found a dull brick wall. Okay, before her. That vision disappeared. Then what she did? She lighted another match. Then she was sitting under the most beautiful Christmas tree. This is the third vision, in which she is sitting under the big Christmas tree. The tree is beautifully decorated. There's a tiny balls hanging on the tree. Okay, lightning all around the tree. Okay, Christmas tree. And she compared that beautiful tree to that tree which she had seen last year. Okay, it was much larger and much more beautiful than the one she had seen the last Christmas through the glass door at the rich merchant home she had seen. Okay, merchant home. Thousands of the candles burned and green branches and the colored picture like those in the print shops looked down at her. The little girl reached both her hands towards them. Then the match went out and the scene disappeared. Okay. Then what she did next? Then the matches went out. The Christmas light mounted higher and higher in the sky, and all the lights become stars. And she imagined that among them one star falls down. So she feels, she believes, if the one star falls down, someone is dying. Actually, this superstition is there in her mind because why? Because once her loving grandmother told her that one star falls from the sky, then someone is dying. This is superstition. Okay. So she saw them snow as bright a star in the sky. One of them fell down, forming a long line of fire. Now someone is dying, thought the little girl. For the old grandmother, the only person who had loved her and who was now dead, had told her that when a star fell down, a soul went up to the God. This statement, this thing told by her grandmother to her once in her life. She rubbed another match against the wall. It became bright again. Okay, and in the glow, the old grandmother stood clear, shining, kind, and loving. Now, the last vision, as soon as the match started burning, in the light of the matches, she saw the vision of her grandmother. Her grandmother was sitting before her. Grandmother looking so beautiful, so loving, so kind to her. Okay, and she also loved her grandmother too much. Grandmother cried the child, "Oh, take me with you." What the child demanded to the grandmother in a vision? "Oh, grandmother, take me with you to the heaven," because she does not want to live any longer in this world, because this world is bitter for her. Because why? Because she had a hard experience. She had very bitter experience about this world. That is why she requests her grandmother, "Oh, grandmother, please take me with you to the heaven." Wonderful, yes. And she is saying, she is requesting that, "I know, please do this work quickly, because as soon as the fire, the light of the matches went out, then you will also disappear like a roasted goose, like an iron stove, like a Christmas tree." Okay, this thing she is saying to her grandmother. "So please take me with you." And as she quickly struck the whole bundle of the matches, for she wished to keep her grandmother with her. Actually, she does not want to let her grandmother go. That is why what she did, she quickly burned all the matches. That is why the light of the flame would not go off. Okay, would not go off. Okay, and so that her grandmother will not go back. Her grandmother will not be disappeared. So that is why she started burning all the matches. Then what happened? Grandmother had never, yes, it became brighter than the daylight when she struck all the matches. when she started burning all the matches, it became a big light like a daylight. Grandmother had never been so grand and beautiful. She took the little girl in her arms, and both of them flew in brightness and joy above the earth. Very, very high, and up there was nothing cold and hunger nor fear. They were with the God. That means grandmother accepted the little girl, and grandmother placed the little girl in her lap, and they both went higher and higher into the heaven to the God. That means what? Little girl dies. But in the and that place she had gone, where's no fear, where's no hunger, where's no any difficulty of the life. Okay. So she had gone to that place where's completely joy, peace, happiness, love. Okay. So she had gone to the God. She had gone to heaven and she went to God. But in the corner leaning against the wall sat the little girl with a red cheek and smiling mouth. In the next morning at the dawn, when the people came, the little girl was sitting as same as she was sitting in the last night. Because she dies, her dead bodies, her position of the dead bodies are the same. She was sitting, having a smile on her face. Because why? Because last night she was seeing a beautiful vision. Okay, she was talking to her grandmother, loving grandmother. That is why still on her dead body, on her dead face, the smile did not disappear. So what happened? Yes. But in the corner against the wall, she sat the little girl with the red cheeks and smiling mouth, frozen to death. On the last evening of the old year, the new year's sun rose upon the little pathetic figure. The child sat there stiff and cold. Stiff and cold means what? Due to the bitter cold outside, she dies. Holding the matches, of which one bundle was almost burned. She wanted warm herself, the people said. People saw that people saw that scene. There's a dead body of the little girl, and still she was holding the matches in her hand, half burned matches. So people guessed that the little girl was trying to warm herself by burning the matches. What beautiful things she had seen! How happily she had gone with her old grandmother into the bright new year. So, in this way, the whole world celebrated the new year, and the little match girl celebrated the new year with her grandmother as she went to the God. She dies. So, the end of the chapter is very sad, but there's a happiness also. The little girl has gone to heaven, has gone to that world, the second world, where there's complete peace, joy, love, the blessing of God. Okay, so in this way, she left this world. Got it? So, children, this story is very good. Okay, so you can take advantage of this video. I hope that. Okay, so study deeply this chapter and about the author also. Now, I would like to discuss few more points of this chapter, important points. The narration of this chapter. Narration of this chapter is very good because why? Because the story follows the style of the third person. Keep in your mind. This is an important point when you write the answer. So the narration of this chapter is actually the style of the author which he has used. It is in the third person. The author takes reader, okay, with him to witness the hardship being faced by the little girl. Only the hardship is shown in the chapter. Clear? And the whole story revolves around this. Actually, the little match girl is a central character of this chapter. Now we talk about symbolism. Symbolism is nothing, I am telling you. Symbolism, actually what happened? Symbolism means all the symbols which narrator has used. This is called a visual imagery. Okay. In visual imagery, when the little girl was sitting with beside the oven stove, she was seeing the beautiful Christmas tree. Okay, she is seeing in her vision to her grandmother. So these all kind of visual imagery which which the author has used. So keep in your mind, a beautiful visual imagery is given in this chapter. Okay, the story is didactic because why? Detective story is that story which gives a moral at the end of the chapter. So the little girl dies, but it gives a strong message to the mankind that always loving to mankind, always we should be loving, we should be kind towards the needy and the poor class people. Okay. Imagery, I told you visual imagery. The lights were shining with the every window. These are visual imagery. Many visual imagery is there when she see the vision and the scene of the vision. All are called visual imagery. You can choose example of that statement in your answer. Okay. So now next, the olfactory also given where some smell is coming. Actually this is a taste or sense imagery. इसको क्या बोलते हैं? Taste or sense imagery, जहाँ किसी की smell दिखाई जाए, like roasted goose smell is coming to the little girl. This is a taste imagery. Okay. So next, tactile also. It is tactile imagery also. Why tactile? Because some painful scenes are there in this chapter, and where the painful scenes are there, that is called tactile imagery. For example, little girl walked about the street on her naked feet, which were red and blue with the cold. This is tactile, painful imagery. How pain she is feeling due to the cold. Her thin hands were almost numb with the cold. This is also a painful imagery, tactile imagery. Okay. So in this way, you can find tactile imagery, you can find visual imagery, you can find some olfactory. You can find olfactory means smell and taste imagery. Okay. Story, kind of stories, detective stories there, which gives a moral also. Symbolism, all symbols of the visions you have to explain. This is called symbolism of the chapter. Okay. So in this way you can study the chapter deeply. I hope you like this video. Okay. Subscribe my channel and give your precious comments. Okay. Press bell icon so that you will get the notifications time to time. Okay. So thank you. Good day.